We will continue with our topic on karma, which we did last time. So I think who all attended the previous class on the karma?
I had missed the class.
Yeah, I know that. Okay. So I will share the file. 1 second. Okay. It's screen share happening, no?
Yes, Mata.
Are you able to see? 1 second, I'll share again something. It's not happening properly with me. Okay. I think it's better now, right? Okay. So in the previous class, before we were learning about karma, we were talking about the topic on the soul, that we are the soul, we are not the body. And we also spoke on reincarnation, right? We had various examples like past life uh, experience and out of body experience and everything, which shows that the reincarnation is true. Not only for the people like us, even the materialist people, many of them have done the research on reincarnation and they are still doing it. There are more than 100 publications on reincarnations. So we can see the very first teaching in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says is, Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tata dehantara prapti dhirastatrana mukhyati. As the embodied soul passes from the childhood to the boyhood to the adulthood, similarly, the soul passes to another body after death. So you can see the picture how the same soul, if somebody has seen you when you were like a 5-year-old girl or a 10-year-old girl, and if they are seeing you now, most likely they may not be able to recognize you because we have changed ourselves so much. Our body has changed. Even the science says that every 7 years, our body changes so much that not a single molecule of the body is present within us after 7 years. So our body is keep on changing. But one thing that is always remaining is our soul. So we know that we are still the same person, although our body is changing. So similarly, the body changes into another body after death. Now, what kind of body one gets after death? Is it sure that one will get a human body, or there are chances that we can fall off from human body? Is there any guarantee that we'll be getting a human body once again?
No, there is no guarantee.
There is no guarantee. There is chances of falling down because the Shastras Padma Puran says that Jalaja Nava Lakshani. There are totally 84 lakh species of life, of which there are 9 lakh species of aquatics, 2 million species of trees and plants, 1.1 million species of reptiles, and 1 million species of birds, and 3 million species of animals. And we are only 4 lakh species of humans. So that is also little surprising for some of them. We think humans are just one, so how come there are 4 lakh species of human? On what, how do we say that there are 4 lakh species of life? On what basis?
Yeah, exactly my question.
Yeah, you
How
have a
come?
question?
Yes, on this only. That
Yeah,
these birds, of course, we don't know what variety, what kinds, the different
yeah,
kinds of birds, and what some we don't even know. But
yeah.
humans, I always thought it's just one, as in like
One
two maybe,
human.
or maybe three. As male species, as female species, or
Yeah,
some people who do not fall in male and female. So
yeah,
I thought maybe three.
yeah, yeah. But actually, we are 4 lakh species based on our consciousness. So, not all the human beings have a developed consciousness. So, for some people, the consciousness is so dull, they are so dull headed that you cannot say anything to them. Even among the human beings, depending on our consciousness, we are 4 lakh species of life. And depending upon the civilization, how much we are civilized. So, civilization doesn't mean on modern thing, how much big cars you drive or what good roads we have, what big buildings we have built. That's not a civilization. So, civilization is based on our consciousness on how one follows the dharma, one follows the scriptures. We don't say that you only have to follow Bhagavad Gita, but any human being who is formed, there are various scriptures, and all the scriptures are bringing them God consciousness, whether they are following the Bible or whether they are following the Quran or whether they are following the Guru Nanak, Guru Granth Sahib, whatever it is. None of the scripture says that, this material world is so good, just stay here. Does any scripture says that? Why is the
No.
God consciousness there everywhere? Because they all came as a messengers, as a son of the God, as a God himself, to show that, this is not a place for us to live, because Krishna has directly given the verdict in Bhagavad Gita. He has called our planet as Dukhalayam. What is Alaya? Alaya means something that is glorified. So Dukh Alaya means what is glorified here? It is a place of misery. And Ashashvat, Sashvat means permanent. Asashvat means temporary. Everything in this world is temporary. Even if somebody thinks they are having a very good life, their karma is good, more or less they had a good life, they got whatever they want in their life. But can they live forever in this world? Will it be possible for them to live forever? No, they have to leave this world, right? The death. Krishna says that Mrityu Sarva Haraschaham. The death takes away everything. So even amongst the human beings, there are 4 lakh species that is based on the level of consciousness. So in the modern science, species or category according to the superficial morphological appearance, and thus a cat and a tiger may be treated as belonging to the same family because they look similar. But Vedas categorize species according to their gunas and qualities. So as we are aware, there are 3 qualities. So the living beings form or under 3 categories. On Sattva Gun, which is mode of goodness, Rajo Gun, which is mode of passion, and Tamo Gun, which is mode of ignorance. So we have 3 primary colors, right? Red, blue, and green. So this mixture of these 3 colors produces how many colors? They produce
Many.
varieties of colors. Just although we are only having 3 basic colors, but this 3 basic colors can give varieties of species colors. So that's why, based on this quality we have, whether we are in goodness, passion, and ignorance, most of the time we are not exactly in one category. We are the mixture of all the 3 categories. Even within a day, sometimes when you start with, your mind is more calm and peaceful. So morning hours are called as goodness, sattva gun. That's why we are supposed to do meditation, chanting, and all the other activities during the morning hours, because the morning hours are mostly facilitating the sattva gun. As the day passes, what happens? Rajogun, मुझे ये करना है, वो करना है, ये प्राप्त करना है, वो प्राप्त करना है. We are all just running behind something. And I say, jaise it becomes evening, night, what happened? We become tamogun, we become very lazy, we become very tired. So we get into the mode of ignorance. But every human being or everything, we are all combination of different gunas. So this is a combination of different gunas, which is giving to different categories of human being as well. So Bhagavad Gita says, Urdhvam gachanti sattvatva. One who is in the mode of goodness, where do they go? They go to the higher planetary system. Madhye tishtanti rajasa. The one who is in the mode of passion, they are mostly in the middle planets, like that of the earth. Adho gachanti tamasa. And those who are in the mode of ignorance, they go to the lower planets or they go to the animal species. So this material world, we have 14 planetary system. The Earth is in the middle. It is in the 7th planetary system. So those planets which are above the Earth, or the people who are living the body in more of goodness, they will go to the higher upper planets like Brahmalok, Swargalok, Tapalok, Makarlok, Janalok. Like that, we have some higher planetary system. And those who are in the living the body in the mode of passion, because in this earth, we know that everybody asks other person, what is your passion? Right? Have you not been asked this question by someone? Or did we not ask this question to anyone else? We have been told, right? Human beings means life means we should have passion. So without passion, we are called like, we are like some dead people. Like, we are like dull headed people because everybody here is in the mode of passion and ignorance. They may be born in the animal species or the Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Pathala, like that. So now what is this? So what the Shastra says is the human species is the junction for the soul. So according to the karma performed in the human body, the next body may either be in the lower species or in the higher species, like that of the demigods or in the human species. And if the human being has attained spiritual perfection, the soul can be released from the cycle of birth and death and return to the spiritual world called Vaikuntha. So that should be the goal of the human life. It is very difficult. We cannot make cat or a dog to be Krishna conscious. Have you seen cat or dog coming to the temple or offering obeisance? Yes, rarely. Sometimes we see some WhatsApp forward where the dog is circumambulating some deities like that, but they are very, very rare. But it is we, the human being, we have higher consciousness who we can always think, why am I suffering in this world? What should Why am I suffering from birth, death, old age, and disease? Why am I suffering from Adi Bhautik, Adi Dhaivik, and Adhyatmik? I'm suffering sometime due to my own mind and my body. I'm suffering sometime due to the other living entity, and I'm suffering sometime due to the natural disasters. So we can always make a higher inquiry because we as a human being, we are always looking for happiness, but we know that we are not getting happiness. So what we are trying is, we are trying to make some material adjustments. हम सोचेंगे हम ये करेंगे तो हमारा लाइफ ठीक हो जाएगा. Sometimes we take the help of some astrologers. हम उनके पास जाते हैं. They see our planetary, our charts, astrological charts. Then they give some kind of an atonement. आप ये करेंगे तो आपका ठीक होगा. आप वो करेंगे तो ठीक होगा. But all these atonements are also very temporary. They will just release us from the temporary difficulty. But whatever the karma that we have done, or it sometimes even the karma can get counteracted, but the propensity to do the karma, that's propensity to do the sinful activity, that will not go. Like in some faith, they go to the church and every week they confess. They say that, I have done this mistake, I have that mistake. So please pardon me. Yes, they are pardoned because they are realizing their mistakes and they are feeling, apologizing for whatever they did. They realized. But if you have realized, what you should do? Will you commit the mistake again or you should stop committing the mistake? What you should do upon realization?
Yeah, we should stop committing, those
We should
kind of.
stop committing the mistake, right? We cannot keep doing the same mistake. And then next week, again, you go to the church and again you confess and again you keep going. So, okay, if that person dies on Sunday night after he confesses in the church, then probably, his sinful reactions are vanished. What in case he dies on Wednesday? He has accumulated lot of sins on Monday and Tuesday. So how will we go on? How will we go back to the spiritual world? You cannot go back to the spiritual world. And we know that the individual soul. So we are always existing. Krishna says, Natvevaham Nat Natve Jana. We have been existing in the past, we are existing in the present, and we will exist in the future also. And Bhagavad Gita also describes the characteristic of the soul. It is unbreakable and insoluble, and it can neither be buried nor dried. It is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. So we see that the soul is Sarvagata, the soul is present everywhere. The living entities are present everywhere. Even if you're taking the Humayun tomb in Delhi, even there is one crack in the Humayun tomb, and in that one crack, you can see that there is a plant growing up from the building. So you see that there are living beings living everywhere. Suppose we have not seen any fish in our life, And we have been told that, there are some living entities who are living in the water. Will you believe it? What will you say? How can it be possible? I cannot even remain in the water for 5 minutes. If I'm in the water for 2 minutes, I will die. I'll become breathless and I will die. How can it be possible? You're just bluffing. It can never be possible. But we see that the fish can live in the water, whereas we cannot live. So similarly, there are living entities who are living in sun planet also. It is habited. Otherwise, the word Sarvagata will not be real, because Krishna says Sarvagata. So there are some living entities who are living even in the sun planets, who have suitable body to live in those planets. There are living entities living in the moon planet also who have suitable body to live in that kind of an environment. So this material nature is offering, it's a garment shop. They say we thought that there are 8.4 million species of life. So we have 8.4 million dresses. So according to our desires and according to our karma, we get different dresses. Like how we go to a garment shop and we choose our dress. So similarly, at the time of the death, based on our karma and desire, we are offered a body so that we can enjoy our senses through that body. For example, if somebody is liking to sleep a lot, they think that life is to sleep, life is to relax and to enjoy. I like sleeping a lot. Then they are given the body of a polar bear who can sleep for 6 months. And like one person, like Kumbhakarna, was also given an opportunity to sleep for 6 months, right? And people who like to eat meat, they are given a body of a tiger, because in that body they have lot of choice to eat only the meat and they don't have to eat vegetables. And people who have more of sexual inclination, they may be given a body of a monkey, because monkey can have a lot of such sensual pleasures. So according to our desires and according to our karma, we are given different bodies. And what does the law of karma says? Like every action has a reaction, as stated by Newton's law, as the Bible also says, as you sow, you reap. If you're planting a mango seed, then will a coconut tree come? It will be only a mango tree, right? So whatever we sow, it is what we reap. So the cause and effect is always there in the law of karma. So generally, karma in a simple words can be defined as any material activities that we do that leads us to another body. That is a simple way to define karma. Whatever activities we do, that uses another body. So the very fact that we are all having material activity, which means that we are all sinful living entities. That's why we are having the material body. And because we have a body, we have a lot of kleshas. Like, I don't know, quite a few of us are here in the 40s or like that. We know when we reach that age, how much our body is giving a lot of trouble, right? As you cross 40, 50, 60, we get a lot of bodily ailments. And today, even children's are getting. Today, children's are having knee issues. Children are having many issues because, unlike us, they don't get an opportunity to play outside and to be with the nature. They are all locked up in a room with video games and everything. So we see even a child is suffering from a lot of health issues, especially more related with the mental issues. Today, the children are suffering a lot with their mind. So we are all suffering having got the body. So Krishna also says the intricacies of the action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should properly know. It is not very easy for us to understand. Krishna himself says, कभी कभी हमको लगता है मैंने कुछ भी गलती नहीं किया, मैंने सबके लिए अच्छा ही सोचा और अच्छा ही सोच रही हूँ, उसके बावजूद भी मेरे साथ जो हो रहा है वो ठीक नहीं हो रहा है. We think that's why it is very, very hard to understand. So, Krishna speaks about three kinds of activities. The first type of activity is called karma. The word karma means pious activity, punya karma, like any material activity that we do. Sometimes we do some material activity for our material advancement, and even it can be a Vedic ritual also, but still it comes under the material activity. Even sometime हम गणपति होम करते हैं, Navagraha home karte hai. We are doing all these things, but these also comes under material activities only. And then we have vikarma, which means papa karma, doing sinful activities like eating meat, drinking alcohol, and having illicit relationship with someone, gambling, cheating others. So these all come under the category of vikarma, which means papa karma. So it's very straightforward. हम अगर ऐसा पाप कर्म करते हैं, so we have to suffer. So the next life we may be born in an animal life, or we may be thrown into the lower planets because of the punishment that we have to undergo. And then we have a third type of activity, which is called akarma, which means inaction. However, we cannot be without doing action even for a single moment. Even breathing is an action. So akarma means a spiritual activities. Whatever activities we are doing, what is the main difference between material activity and spiritual activity? Can anybody say that? See, some of the activity may look similar. Some material activity also comes under welfare category. So
I
what
think
is the
the
main difference? Yeah.
main difference would be in material, you think about you think about that I am doing good, so I will benefit it. In spiritual activities, you don't feel that you are looking at some benefit out of it. It is, out of, like, you become indifferent. You feel that it
Yeah.
is important for a spiritual growth.
Exactly. We do it for the pleasure of Krishna. We don't do for our benefit. In spiritual activity, whatever we do, we are trying to please Krishna. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. We are serving Rishikesha, who is the master of the senses. Then Sarvapadi Vinirmuktam. When we are serving Rishikesha, what happens is Sarvapadi Vinirmuktam. You come out of all kind of designation, Tat Paratvena Nirmalam, and we become purified. But jo material activity hai, like Shweta Mataji said, it can be because we are thinking that I am the doer. I built a hospital and we advertise ourselves. हम पेपर में ढालते हैं मैंने ये हॉस्पिटल बिल्ड किया और स्ट्रीट्स में कुछ साइन बोर्ड लगाते हैं मैं इनॉग्रेशन कर रहा हूँ and we send the WhatsApp message to all our relatives and friends, I have built a hospital, I have built a school, like that we show ourselves. And also we are looking for some benefits. Not only we are thinking we are the doer, हम हमारे लिए क्या मिलेगा? I am doing this so that I get some punya activity because of which I can enjoy more. Maybe God will give me more, sukrit, more of the benefits. So maybe in the next life I may become more rich, or because I help so many, may God might, increase my wealth, like that. So we are looking for some benefit for ourselves. Whereas in spiritual activity, whatever we are doing, it is only for us for the pleasure of Krishna, for the pleasure of God, not for any of your material benefits. Anya bilashita shunam jnana karma drinavritam. So anya bilashita shunyam, your desires become zero. But how do we go to the God? Anya bilashita purnam. We go with a list of desire. When we go to the God, we have a list of desire. भगवान मेरे हस्बैंड के लिए ये करवा दो, मेरे बच्चे के लिए ये करवाओ, ये ना आपके लिए हमारा गाड़ी ठीक नहीं है, ये बहुत प्रॉब्लम दे रहा है, आप ना मुझे थोड़ा अच्छा गाड़ी दे दो. And we say, the house I'm living is not so good, my neighbors are so not so good, maybe please give me some other house. Like that, we keep on going and asking God, do me this, do me that. Like that, एक list के साथ जाते हैं. Suppose there are some 99 people. When you see people who are going to any Devata's shop, if you're seeing 100 people who are taking the darshan of the deities, in that, every 100 people you ask them, like exit vote, what did you pray to the God? Then they will have a list, including one person more, Pujari. He will also have some desires by doing that. So each and every one will have some desires. It was with myself as well. Until I came to Krishna consciousness, until I read Bhagavad Gita, I thought that I should approach God because God will give something to me. Like before the exam, kuch ye hai, wo hai. We have been always thought, we approach God because to mitigate some of our sufferings. So karma means any action. As I said, it can be a punya karma or papa karma. Not papa karma, punya karma, and also Vedic rituals. Anything that we perform to get the punya, that also comes under punya karma. And vikarma is very easy to understand, and sin performed due to the ignorance, and that lead to suffering in this life and next life. कुछ लोग बोलते हैं they don't want to read Bhagavad Gita because they think that, if they read Bhagavad Gita, then, they will lose their enjoyment. Then they will think, nah, I can't do this, I can't do that. Let me just do whatever I like, It is better that I don't know something, because if I know, I will feel guilty. I don't want to feel guilty. So better thing is I will stay away from the scriptures. I don't want to hear anything. But ignorance doesn't mean that you will be relieved from it. Like a child touches the fire out of ignorance, still the fire burns the child. The fire does not spare the child, right? So similarly, doesn't matter, even if you're in ignorance, you have to suffer for your karma. Like by performing sin, what happens? We attain suffering, poverty, disease, low birth, ugliness. Sometimes we have been told, ये बच्चे ने क्या पाप किया है, they were born blind. ये बच्चों ने क्या किया, they were born to the prostitutes, and they were in the trouble, but these people have not done. No, we take birth according to our karma. It is not that, these people, or, something God has done injustice to them. No, we take a birth because of our own karma, not because of somebody else putting it. It's not by chance. अभी लॉटरी मिलेगा और भगवान सबको रिलीज करेंगे, सब सोल को. जो अंबानी के घर में पैदा हुआ उसका लॉटरी हो गया, and who is born in some poor family, uska bad luck tha, इसीलिए उसको उधर लाइफ मिल गया. No, we see there are millions of people, at least 1 lakh people born within the same time, our world population. But in spite of that, in the same time somebody is born rich, the same time somebody is born poor. Within the family, among the twins, we see that one is probably very prosperous and other is suffering. And if you see their astrological chart, there may not be a big difference. So how can we understand this point? Like Bhagavad Gita says that even if you go to the heavenly planet, when you do lot of punya karma, you will go to the heavenly planets. But shine punya matyaloke vishanti. Once your punya get exhausted, you are again put into the mrityulok. Like a businessman may work very hard for some times and accumulate a lot of money. Then he decides to take a vacation and enjoy himself. As he enjoys, he spends his hard-earned money. Eventually, when his stock of money was depleted, then he has to return working hard into the business again. He has to go back to his work, right? Only that enjoyment is there as long as he has that money, that excess money which we can use. So the punya karma also will only give us credit for some part of the life which gives us material happiness. But again, we have to go back to our original state. And similar logic holds even for sinful activity. If a criminal who has jailed for 1 year for committing a crime, as he suffers in the jail, with every passing day, his stock of crime reduces. And finally, at the end of 1 year, he is released again. It's not that he is kept in the prison forever. And akarma refers to spiritual activities. Like we said, the activities performed on behalf or for the pleasure of the God. Because they are so performed without selfish desire, they do not implicate the performer or entangle them. So akarma directly gives us a ticket to Goloka or Vaikunta. They may not show off here. Because we did some activities for Krishna, it's not that just because you did it, unless otherwise you have a material desire, Krishna will not reciprocate to you materially in this life, whereas he will give you the spiritual birth. He will give his own place where there is no more birth, no more death, no more disease, no more old age. So examples of akarma or chanting the holy names of the God. Chanting is an akarma. Worshipping him is an akarma, and serving him in various ways. Navavidha Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam. Shravanam, hearing about Krishna. Now, all of you are hearing about Krishna. So, this is also an akarma. And Kirtanam. So, in the Shastras, according to Krishna, everything is absolute. It's not that because Sukadeva Goswami narrated Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj, Sukadeva Goswami is one step against more than Parikshit Maharaj. No, they both are in the equal state. In the absolute level, the person who is speaking and the person who is hearing, they are on the same level. It is not that one person is superior to the other. So this is also a karma that you are doing. So which will take you to the Krishna Loka. So akarma liberates one from the cycle of birth and death and takes one back to home, back to Godhead, to the spiritual world. And Bhagavad Gita, the verse 3.9 says, Yajnatat karmano yatra lokoyam karma bandhana tadattam karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Work done, whatever the work be done, it should be performed as a sacrifice for Vishnu. Otherwise, what work we do, it becomes a bondage. If you are not doing any work that pleases the Lord, that means that same work is giving us bondage, like opening a hospital. If you are not keeping Krishna in the center, you are opening because for your own name and fame, and you have some desire, some ulterior motive behind it, that means that that karma will also lead you to the bondage. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free from bondage. So Krishna has given a solution here. How can we come out of the bondage? So whatever we do, we should do only for his satisfaction. In Bhagavad Gita 9th chapter also Krishna says that Yat karoshi, yat dashnashi, yat juhoshi tadati, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurusva madarpanam. Whatever you're doing in charity or whatever you're eating, whatever austerities you're performing, do it for me. So every activity that we perform should be for the satisfaction of Krishna. Like having Ekadashi and satisfying Krishna is good. So you are just fasting for yourself, for your own benefits, then that is not an austerity which pleases Krishna. So any austerity that you perform out of your own whims and fans, not that is prescribed in Shastras, then that activity is not pleasing Krishna also. Like we have seen sometimes the politicians, they go on like no water, no food, right? Sometimes they say that, we will abstain from food and water because they want some of their thing to be fulfilled. But, such activities are prohibited according to the Shastras. So whatever austerities that we perform, that should also be pleasing the Krishna. So punya karma or spiritual activities are not the same. So one should clearly understand that both are different. Punya karma means material activity, and spiritual activity means akarma, which is devotional service to the Lord. On the other hand, being fully spiritual has nothing to do with this material world. So spiritual activities has nothing to do with the material world. It is on the platform of the soul. We are not doing for our body. It is pleasing the soul. So such devotional activity is not meant for material promotion. Rather, it is meant to transfer us to the spiritual world, beyond the cycle of birth and death. So an intelligent person who is looking for a permanent happiness, then which karma he will choose? He will choose punya karma or he will choose bhakti karma. What will he choose?
Akarma.
Akarma or bhakti karma, which is more easy for us to understand. Okay, so instant and delayed karma. This is something which is very important for us to understand. Sometimes, whatever actions we do, we get the reaction immediately. Sometimes we do not get the reaction for that. It takes a lot of time. Some people say, I have seen that, this person has been evil throughout his life, but, nothing has happened to him. He continues to be happy. I don't, although I believe in karma, but I don't know why anything bad is happening to that person. So, like that, we see many examples in our day-to-day life. A thief caught stealing on the street will face an immediate reaction. That is an instant karma. If you see a thief pickpocketed and if he is caught, immediately he is put in the prison. So that is an instant karma. So eating contaminated food will bring the reaction. Few hours later, you may go to a restaurant, maybe you didn't eat a proper food, not immediately, maybe after a day or within some 4 or 5 hours, you may see the reaction. So this is a slightly delayed karma. a clever murder may go undetected and be caught only after several months unpunished. We have seen many cases where so many murders, they keep on, they are not convicted and they get the punishment after 10 years or 12 years, or some of them may not get at all. They may just go away, but they will be still facing the karmic reactions for that, if not in this life, in the next life. So karmic reaction here is further delayed. The reaction of illicit activity may come even 20 years later. They say that generally the incubation period for AIDS is 20 years. So this is karma, which is further delayed. So in this way, we can extend this logic to understand that karma reactions for actions performed now may even come in the future lifetime. So this crucial point should be understood. Not all the karma, the reactions of every activity may not be immediately realized. So, why the spillover to future lives, they ask. So, let's see why. The logic for understanding the reaction to our karma may come in the future lives also. Because the death interrupts the fructifying of karma. You may die, but your body is just annihilated. Your gross body is gone, but your subtle body, your mind, intelligence, and false ego remains, and that carries another, that is being carried along with the soul, and our subtle body finds another body. So, because of which the death interrupts the natural reactions. So we will have to take next birth to receive these karmic reactions. That's why in those days, the kings, they give capital punishment to the murderers. They immediately hang them, which is good for them, because whatever the bad things they have done, they immediately got the reaction, so that they may not have to suffer for it after leaving the body. If they are not suffering in this world for their karmic reaction, they have to suffer 100 times more with their subtle body in the hellish planets. In Srimad Bhagavad Mahapuran, there is a description of 27 different types of hell, where for each type of sinful reactions that we perform, we have to suffer in that hellish condition for a very, very long time and for a very, very bad way. So, and the actual fact is, we have all been in that hellish condition. We have all been in different bodies. Each and every one of us has taken millions of bodies in millions of universe, but still, because of our forgetfulness of our relationship with the Lord, because we think we are independent of the Lord, and by making some material adjustments, we can be happy. We are coming life after life, we are coming back and suffering. So different karmic seeds take different time to fructify. So every karma we perform is like a seed as we sow. Every seed has its own nature that makes it bear the fruit at certain time. For example, if you're planting a mustard seeds, within 2 days you will see the plant sprouting. If you're planting a mango tree, it may take some more time. If you're planting a bamboo tree, for 5 years you will not even see the trace of anything coming up. So after 5 years you will see the little leaves coming up. So like that, each karma fructifies at a different time. So similarly, all the karmic seeds will not bear the fruit at the same time. Rather, following their intrinsic quality, depending on the nature of the karma, they will fructify at different times. So some karmic seeds naturally take short time to fructify and some take a long time. Therefore, according to their nature, some karma have reactions may come in this life and some can come in the next life. So conditions have to be right. Sometimes for karma to fructify, you should have proper conditions. Like this is an example of a hunter. There was a hunter long time back. He killed 100 birds in the presence of his father, in their parents. So the hunter was to suffer for this sin by seeing his own 100 sons lying before him. So it was Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra has to see his 100 sons who were killed right in front of him. But scripture says that one can obtain a son only when one has certain stock of punya. Putra means the one who delivers. So the Shastra says, because the putra, the son, is the one who offers pinda and who delivers the forefathers by offering the oblations and offering the tarpana and all those things. So to have a son means we should accumulate some punya. So for Dhritarashtra to have 100 sons, he has to take birth in 50 lifetimes to accumulate many punya. Lot of pious activity he did in this 50 lifetimes. And after he accumulated so much of pious activity, he got 100 sons. And then when he got 100 sons, all the 100 sons died right in front of him. So Dhritarashtra was asking, why did it take? If I have to suffer, that's fine. It could have happened in the next life. You know, why it has to take 50 lifetimes? Because as we discussed, he has to earn the punya to have 100 sons. So once the conditions were right, then he has to suffer. So this reaction of his karma happened after how many lifetimes? 50 lifetimes. So whatever the actions we do, suppose if we are not suffering in this life, we may have to suffer in the following future life. And whatever suffering we are undergoing now, it is because of our past life. Because we have done something in our past life, so we are suffering. That's why a devotee all sings prayers, which is recited by Brahma. Tattenu kampam susamikshamano bunjana evatma kritam vipakam ritvagva purve vidatam namaste jiveta yemukti padase dayabak. He says that I have done so many sinful reactions. If I have to suffer more than what I'm suffering now. But you have been so kind that you have reduced it. Even though a devotee is suffering, but a devotee thinks that Krishna has reduced his sufferings because of his intervention. And he remains in bhakti. What happens, some people know, if some tragic incidents happen in their life, they deviate from bhakti. They think, the God is so unkind. I don't want to pray him. I did everything to him. But I am alive, but my daughter passed away before me. That's very bad. How can the God do towards me? I have practically heard this from few of them who said that, somebody who stopped praying God because they had some tragic event happening in their life. So they were probably praying, they had belief in the God, but something happened and they want to get out of their belief. So, but a devotee thinks, so one should always remind. Suppose if you want to inherit the property of your father, what you should do? You should just remain as the son or daughter of your father. If you just remain the son or daughter, then after you will inherit the property. So similarly, whatever our situation is, we should remain in devotion to Krishna. We should never come out of our devotion. We should remain in bhakti, like how we inherit the property just by remaining in that as a son or daughter of that particular parent. So body is only a dress. A thief may commit a crime when he is wearing a white shirt and is arrested a few days later when he is wearing a red shirt. So, does the color of the shirt make any difference? So, he may say, I did in the white shirt, now I am wearing red shirt, you cannot arrest me. So, like that, maybe some papa we committed in our previous lifetime when we were in another dress for which we are suffering now. So, we cannot say that, no, I have not done anything now. I am not wearing the white dress, so you cannot arrest me. The thief cannot say that. So, similarly, since the body is only a dress of the soul, we previously saw the garment shop. So, it is a dress we are wearing, like how we change the dress. Vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya navani grignati Yatoparani. Krishna says, like how we change the garments, like that we change from one body to another. So, does not matter whether the reaction comes within the same dress or same life or in some future life. Isn't it very simple and sublime and logic? It is very easy for us to understand this with this example how the karma can act. Forgetfulness is not the cause of excuse. Just because you forgot doesn't mean that you will not be punished. A thief says, I don't remember committing this theft. So just because he cannot remember doesn't mean that he is not punished. So similarly, our forgetfulness of the cause of the suffering or enjoyment will not alter. Even though we may not remember that there are higher authorities in the material universe who keep record and do remember. Karmana deva netrena. Every activity that we are doing is being recorded. There are so many sakshis, sun god, moon god. They are all sakshis of whatever we are doing. So each and every activity that we do is being recorded. We cannot say that nobody saw me, so how can I be convicted? No. There is a Karmana, you are always in the vision of the Karmana Deva Netrena. You are in the vision of the demigods who are recording all the activities that we are doing. Like there is a story of one of the student in the Gurukula. The Guru is giving some mangoes to the set of the students, and he says that, please hide the mango in such a way that nobody sees that. If I see the mango, then you will not be able to eat the mango. So what some of them did, some of them hid here, some of them hid there, some of them did something, some of them ate also so that, it will not be seen. But there was one boy who said that to his guru, I cannot hide this mango anywhere because I don't see any place where there is no God. So I could not hide this mango anywhere. Then the Guru was very pleased with his disciple and said, you are the rightful student who understood exactly what I am teaching. So because the God is everywhere, so we cannot cheat anyone. So can good karma cancel the bad karma? Some people, they think, they are very smart. I am doing some bad things. I will equivalently do some good things so that my good things will counteract the bad things. I have literally heard some people who have spoken this to me. I know I am eating non-veg. I know that is sinful. I am eating an animal, but I also do many other good things, Now, what this papa I am doing of eating this, I will counteract by the good things that I am doing. So they just think, you can do one activity bad and you can do another activity good because we know mathematics, we are logicians, we are arithmeticians. So we think that, I will do. And some people, they do some kind of wrong activities and they go and take atonement, prayakshita. They go to some places where they do all the atonements and they think, their papa is done. But their propensity to do the sinful reactions will not disappear. The papa may disappear. You will recommit again. Like, there are some people in the south. Lekha Mataji must be knowing that, and some of the South Indians also knows that. The people, they go to Shabarimala, right? They follow lot of austerities like 30 days, 40 days, or 1 week, or whatever it is. They abstain from all kinds of comforts and they sleep in the floor and they don't even walk with the shoes on and everything. And then they go and then they take the darshan. And immediately coming down, you will see lot of meat shops. They will immediately come and eat non-veg food because 1 month they restricted themselves from eating. So what they think is now darshan हो गया, austerity हो गया, भगवान को देख लिया, अब मैं ये करता हूँ जो मुझे अच्छा लगता है. That's not the thing, because if you have done an austerity, if you have done this, if you will see a lot of meat shop in the foothills of Shabarimala, because they have done with their workshop. So now they think that it is a time for them to enjoy whatever they do. So this is again ignorance. You are doing something, but you're doing your austerity, but your austerity is not taking you anywhere. So unlimitedly more beneficial than the ritualistic atonement process is the path of bhakti or to Krishna at the great stages. So the best way of atonement is devotional service to Krishna. That's what Parikshit Maharaj is thinking. When Sukadeva Goswami is talking about atonement, how can this atone others? How it doesn't look to me? Then Sukadeva Goswami says, yes, the propensity to do sinful reaction remains. So the only way in which, we can come out of the karma is by discharging the devotional service. Only a rare person who has adopted a complete, unalloyed devotional service to Krishna can uproot the seeds of sinful actions with no possibility that they will revive. So once you become a devotee of Krishna, this sinful propensity will go away completely. It will not come back again. He can do this simply by discharging the devotional service, just as the sun can immediately dissipate the fog. Sometimes you see a foggy day. When the sun comes, what happens to the fog? Immediately the fog disappears. Right. So even we see some people, they go to the rehab center to come out of some bad habits that they have. But the chances of these people to relapse is 95%. Only 5% of the people are actually cured from the rehab center. But I have heard in some of the temples, those devotees now who had very bad habits, they have been coming to the temple regularly for 3 months of Sunday program, coming, hearing. eating the prasadam, taking the darshan, and they have come out of all their bad reactions. And today, some of them are wonderful devotees. So, from the root, everything get destroyed. And individual and collective karma. Sometimes we see, sometimes people, in an airplane crash, we see 200 people die. Now we had Wayanad in Kerala, there was a landslide. Thousands of people died. So how come so many people died? Because it is because of the collective karma. A group of people with similar karma, the nature makes an arrangement where they come together and the mass slaughtering happening. And the same play, Wayanad, yes, we are feeling sympathy, but it is also known for cow slaughtering. Because you have slaughtered the innocent animals, so you have to face the reaction. So nothing happens because you have not done anything. We may find sympathy, but you have also done bad to the innocent creatures. So, and karma, if you take, there are two types of karma. One is prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma means the one that is seen. If somebody is blind, if somebody is handicapped, if somebody is suffering from diseases like cancer or many other chronic diseases, that means it is seen. That is prarabdha karma, that which is seen. And then we also have another type of karma, which is called sanchita karma or aprarabdha karma. So you can note down this because this terms, will be very useful for us in further reading of Bhagavad Gita and scriptures like Bhagavatam. So prarabdha karma means the one that is seen, and aprarabdha karma means the one which is yet to fructify. It is unseen. A simple example how we can understand. Suppose you are going to a garment shop. You will only see some clothes which is displayed in the showcase, but there will be many other cloths which is there in the godown. And if you ask for them, they will bring more clothes. So similarly, according to our karma, some is seen. Aprarabdha is of three stages. One is kuta, where you are fostering the sinful reactions. Another is called bija. Bija means because you have accumulated the sinful reaction, that has become a seed, a bija. Then kutam bija. And then it has become prarabdha. It will be seen again. Okay. So we have two stages of karma, either prarabdha or aprarabdha. So prarabdha means the one which we are currently suffering. Aprarabdha means it is there. It is there in the budding stage. It is there in the seed form. It is there in the fostering stage. So sometime it will be appearing for us. That is aprarabdha karma. Okay, so what is destiny or fate? Destiny is nothing but the aggregate of karmic reactions that have presently borne fruit or will shortly bear fruit. The destiny for our present life is simply our prarabdha karma. So whatever we are facing now is due to our prarabdha karma. And it is truly said, man is the maker of his own destiny. Yes, for whatever you did in the past, you are suffering now. For whatever you are doing now, you have to suffer in the future. So is there a scope for free will? So if destiny is already fixed, do I have a free will? So destiny is what happens to us as a result of our past activity that cannot be avoided. But our free will lies how we respond to that, and generally how we act in the life. Free will never be destroyed. Free will never be destroyed. However, our habits and attitude born out of association of many, many years and indeed many lifetimes may influence the way we look at our free will. Like in the last class, I gave an example. While our destiny is fixed, we still make many choices in the life. Suppose a person is taking a flight to Paris, your destiny is fixed, but still you make choices on what activities you do while you're in the flight. That becomes your future destiny. The choices that we make will always have an impact. So one should not be worried for whatever the suffering we are doing now. Okay, we should not give up on the life, whereas we should be optimistic and we should act well. We should act in the spiritual platform so that we can mitigate all these karmic reactions. So choice exists before performing karma, like a word spoken. Until you spoke, you have a choice. Once the word spoken, you cannot take it back. Arrow shot. Once the arrow leaves, you cannot pull it back. A bullet fired, it cannot go back. So our choice of free will exists before we perform the karma. Once we perform it, we have no choice but to accept the reaction. So consider for an instant that a man has jumped off a building. Before he jumped, he had a choice whether to jump or not to jump. But once he jumped, and while he is jumping, he is thinking that no, my mind has changed. I don't want to die. Can he be protected? No, right? So death is a destiny, but it becomes so only after we exercise the choice and then you jump. So, in other words, destiny is a product of the use of our own free will. We have no one to blame but ourselves for our suffering. Who can we blame when we bite our own tongue? Can you blame somebody? You bit your tongue yourself. Whom will we blame? So, and then why do bad things happen to good people? Many times people think, like I have not done anything wrong. Why has it happening? So people generally perform a mixture of good and bad karma. So the reaction also comes in the mixed form. Like even if we are walking in the road and we are stepping on an ant, we are subjected to karma for that also. So we do not know that we are performing a bad karma, but we are subjected to bad karma. The food that we cook, lot of microorganisms are killed. While boiling water, lot is killed. While grinding things, lot is killed. While sweeping the floor, lot is killed. So that's why even you eat a vegetarian food also, you're eating sin because you have killed so many entities. That's why Krishna says that offer it to me. There are some food which Krishna says that can be offered. So by offering the food that we prepare to Krishna, we can come out of our karmic reactions. So sevon mukohi jikvaho. The Shastra says that the seva for Krishna starts with the tongue. With the tongue, we have to eat prasadam, and with the tongue, we have to chant the holy names. So, by controlling the tongue, we can control the rest of the senses. So, sorry, I'm going little late. Is it okay? I will take 10 more minutes. Is it okay?
Anusha Mataji, I will have to sign off.
Okay, okay. Sorry, I have 10 more minutes to cover these points. Okay, so if somebody is in rush, you can leave, but we will continue. Okay. So suppose a farmer is producing a grain and there is a silo where they store the grains. So let's assume that there are some stock in the grain, and 1 year the farmer has produced a bad grain. So this bad grain is put on top of the good grains that he already had. So even though he made some bad grains, he may not be getting the bad grains now because it was on the top. So he will continue to get the good grains. And the following year, he produced the good grains. And he will put these good grains on top of the existing bad grains. But he will get bad grains. Is it easy to understand? Like a silo. So sometimes the stored stock doesn't matter what grain he is producing in the current year, but because it is already stocked, he may get different grains. In spite of producing the good grain, he may get the bad grain. In spite of producing the bad grain, he may get the good grain. So that is the way. So even though sometimes we are not doing anything wrong in this lifetime, but still, because of our accumulated bad karma, we may suffer. So we should not feel bad towards it. But now we have a weapon. We have Bhagavad Gita. We have Srimad Bhagavatam. We have chanting. We have Shastras, Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So we can easily mitigate. Srimad Bhagavatam says that by getting into a devotional service, one can come out of all type of sinful reactions, which are even in the stage of Kutam and Bija. Even if it is not seen. So you go for atonement as long as it is seen. If nothing is seen, we don't go for atonement. There will be something which is stored. Everything is destroyed. Bhakti can destroy all types of sinful activities which are in the prarabdha as well as in aprarabdha. As we have seen earlier, both good karma and bad karma are causes of bondage to this material world. So it is only to surrendering to Lord Krishna and engaging in his devotional service, we can become completely free from this miserable bondage of the law of karma. So the only way where we can mitigate is by surrendering yourself to Krishna. I just have one more small presentation which I have to make. It is a very good thing. Just give me a second. One second. So these are the slokas from Srimad Bhagavatam that I say, which is talking about our karma. So when the seeds of a sinful reaction have not yet fructified, the seeds are called aprarabdha, as I said, when the bija, which is not. So those seeds of sinful reactions are unseen, but they are unlimited. So no one can trace when they are first planted. Because of prarabdha, the sinful reaction, they have already fructified. One is seen to have taken birth in a low family or suffering from other miseries. So when one takes to devotional service, however, all the phases of the sinful life, including prarabdha, aprarabdha and bija are vanished. So this is a sloka from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 14, Text 19, where Lord Krishna says, Uddhava, my dear Uddhava, devotional service in relationship with me is like a blazing fire that can burn to ashes all the fuel of sinful activities supplied to it. How devotional service vanishes the reaction of sinful life is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam in the verse spoken by Devahuti to Lord Kapila. My dear Lord, if even a person born in a family of dog eaters and repeats the chanting of your glories, offer respects to you and remember to you, he is immediately greater than a Brahmana and is therefore eligible to perform sacrifices. Therefore, what is to be said to one who has seen you directly? So, doesn't matter. Even if you are born in a very, very sinful activities, by taking a devotional service, you become even greater than a Brahmana and you go to the spiritual world. In the Padma Puran, there is a statement that person whose hearts are always attached to the devotional service of Vishnu are immediately released from all reactions of sinful life. These reactions generally exist in four phases. As I said, aprarabdha, which means unmanifested, that is the reactions are in dormant stage. Kutam, stored up but tending towards bija. And bija in the form of the seeds. And aprarabdha, which means current. So these are the four stages of the sinful activity. You can all note down. Aprarabdha means which is unmanifested, which is in the dormant stage. And kutam means which is stored up, but tending towards bija. It will slowly put the seeds. And then bija is in the form of seeds. And prarabdha means what we are facing currently. So all such reactions are immediately nullified by devotional service. When devotional service is present in one's heart, desire to perform sinful activities have no place there. Sinful life is due to ignorance, which means forgetfulness of one's constitutional position as an eternal servant of God. Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishnera Nityadas. So the only problem that we are facing in this world is we are forgetful of our real position, our constitutional position as the eternal servant of the Lord. So all the problems that we are facing is not because of famine or not because of the political issues or not because of anything. It is mainly because of the forgetfulness of the Lord. But when one is fully Krishna conscious, he realizes that he is the God's servant. So this is what I wanted to share with you. I hope this session was useful. Yeah. So I just wanted to say today in one of the class that I heard from what my Guru Maharaji had in Atlanta in the Krishna life, there was one of the Mataji. She is a psychology student in the University of Georgia, a full-time student. In spite of that, she is doing so much of services in the temple. She is doing the flower deity decorations, flower thing, and she is distributing books. She is chanting, she is cooking. And she's doing so many such activity, being a full-time student. And they are very blissful. You know, those devotees, when you're engaged in Krishna service, you don't get tired. You get tired when you do material activity, but when you do spiritual activity, you get more and more enlivened. You don't get tired. So I request each and every one of you, so please take up to the devotional service. To start with, at least start chanting the holy names of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And next, according to your capacity, in whatever way you can serve the Lord, whether in terms of distributing books, each and every one of us have lot of friends and family. If we cannot approach a new person for book distribution, if you're feeling shy or not comfortable, we can at least distribute it among our colleagues, among our family, amongst our neighbors, like that, because that will give the knowledge to others. Because until we get the knowledge, we are in ignorance, right? So those are the things, that can bring some of them in devotion. Like I could see here 4 of them here who has joined the class because of book distribution. Sneha Mataji and Kirti Mataji, I just met couple of days back in the station, and she's here. And Shanti Mataji and Rani Mataji, I met them in the preaching desk in the temple. So today you can see that because of the book distribution, they have taken up the devotional service very seriously. So we can also do that.